Hi, howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio.
Here in this primitive river-bottom wilderness in southern Arkansas, along with deer, duck, crane, and beaver, lurks a creature that walks upright. Whether it is a man, a monster, or a myth, no one really knows. What we do know is the people around Fouke, Arkansas say they have seen such a creature nearly 250 times since 1954. And that this creature, whatever it is, emits one of the most terrifying sounds ever recorded. The Legend of Boggy Creek, rated G.
There you go.
Okay.
I am Keith Crabtree. My uncle got me into the Legend of Boggy Creek movie. I was gassing my car up early one morning to go to town and get some beer to ride around, my usual habits when in between pipeline jobs and stuff right out of the Marine Corps. And he asked me what I was doing, and I told him, gassing up, go get me some beer, gonna ride around, drink a few beers. And he says, "Are you working anywhere?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "I got something I want you to do for me." I said, "Okay." He said, you do it. And Uncle Smokey had always been awesomely good to me. So I said, "Yes, sir, I'll do it." He said, "Be at the house about daylight." I said, I might ought to get about going and getting beer if I got to be up at daylight." And he chuckled with me and he laughed at me. He said, "Well, however you want to work it, but we're going to be done. We're going to start about daylight." And
So you didn't even know what this gig was, just like you had a job?
no, I didn't know what was going on. And just before he went away from when he was returning, and I said, "By the way, what is it you're wanting me to do?" He said, "I want you to be the monster in the movie." And I kind of got the deer in the headlight looks. I said, "Okay, I'll be there in the morning." I got down there and they had done set up and started boiling traps in the scene for Travis Crabtree fixing to start running and set a trap line. And I got down there and he's on the way down there. His road wasn't paved. It was pretty slick. And I didn't want to be late, and I was going a little too fast around the curve and slid off in the ditch. Well, I finally maneuvered it out. I could run enough RPMs on it that I finally come out, and I cleaned this ditch out for about 100 yards. And it wasn't draining good anyhow. That's what kept the road so slick. I get down there, and he said, "You got it out?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "All right." He said, "We're ready." He said, he introduced me to Charles B. Pierce, and cousin Travis, he's down there. He's all dressed up in his clothes to run the trap line. A little bit cool that morning. He had a jacket on and everything. I was down there, and I was more or less movie set flunky. Go fetch this and that, and I got to be on every location of every scene that was shot in that movie. And I knew all the locations because when it's your little hometown, and back then
Right.
people let you hunt their properties. And I knew all the properties.
So unlike anybody else in the cast, even though you weren't on camera all the time, you were there when they were filming everything.
Yes,
You
sir,
run around
was.
in the background helping them.
Yes, sir. I made the trips to Little Rock to get the fog machine
Oh,
so I
God.
could make the fog that you see, and all that fog is hanging low to the ground. That wasn't natural. That was made with the fog machine, and I was in charge of the fog machine too.
So you got to be the monster and the fog monster?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was in it in person once myself for a brief deal. There's three of us walking down a lane, and that lane went into the Jeff Crabtree house place in his driveway, and it was Monroe Smith, John Knight, and me, and we was like steps going up on the porch. You had Monroe, and then you had John Knight, and then you had me, and we're walking down the road. And the reason I'm telling you this, so if you watch the movie, you can spot me. I'm the long, tall drink of water. And since that time, I've
Filled out a bit?
I filled out a lot, not just a little bit. At one time I was 386 pounds,
Good Lord.
and I think I'm down to about 360 now. So it's all
Svelte.
good.
Slim and trim. Back to being slim and trim.
Yeah, I need to get back down about 260. And I've been it ain't been working out real good for me though.
Well, it don't matter that much until you get to be older, and then it really wears on your internal organs when you got too much weight on
Oh
you.
Lord, yeah.
And your skeleton, carrying all that extra
I'll be
weight.
the tender young age of 71 my next birthday, July. So
Right on.
it's just time that I got real serious in the last 9 months about doing it and everything. But getting back to the movie and everything, the Charlie Walraven scene where he's driving the old 50, I believe it's 50, is it 49 mile or 50 mile Ford? And I can remember just right now to the day, I can remember Charlie Walraven sitting in that steering wheel going down the road. You meet him, he's like this, both hands on the wheel, he's steady. And we were shooting that scene, and one of our local people come by in his 67 blue white top Chevrolet pickup with the gun rack, and we shooting that scene, and I'm out in the woods out there. And he lives just about a mile down the road, and he's aware of the Charlie Walraven encounter where it run across the road in front of Charlie there. And I figure I'm reading his mindset, just thinking, well, what's he gonna do? And his brake lights is coming on. I can see through the brush and stuff that, well, he's stopping. He ain't going on down the road, and I'm watching him. And I got this costume on, the monster costume on. And I'm thinking, yeah, and his elevator goes all the way to the top floor. He just slightly a little bubble off level though.
Uh-oh.
And I know he's gonna get his gun coming in woods and hunt that monster with everybody parked on the roadside then, because he didn't stop and talk to nobody and ask him. He just drove on through it. And his mind said he'd be thinking, man, that's a news camera down here. The monster done run through again.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard his truck door shut, and the brake lights went off, and then I heard the truck door shut, ask me how long it took me to get out that costume.
About a second.
Just say scat, scat, and it's off. Because, and then Uncle
Good
Smokey,
precaution, Keith.
and Uncle Smokey, he come busting through the thicket where I was at, and he said, that vehicle stopped. I said, yeah, that's Jack. I said, he'll have his gun, just get behind that tree right there. I'll scare him real good. But
Oh, man.
Uncle Smokey hollered at him before we got that far. And let him know, it ain't the real deal, don't be shooting at us. I did not put the suit on the rest of the evening. I said, y'all got enough of me come across that road, I'm sure.
Did you hear about basically the same thing happened when they were filming the third Star Wars movie, and they were doing all the scenes in the Redwood Forest? And the guy they had playing the part of Chewbacca, they had to have security all over him the whole time so nobody randomly walked through and shoot him.
I bet so.
Yeah.
Everybody asked me, wasn't you scared to do that at that time, the way, because, that's almost full fishing game regulations, that's in the 60s. You growed up in them, and this is in the '70s, and you realize game and fish is got regulations and everything, but still yet, everybody carried their guns in their gun rack in the back of their trucks back in.
Yeah.
It's a different world. It's a different day and time back in, is the way to say that, I believe. And another deal that we done that I remember was the stunt driving. The scene of the couple going to Shreveport, then you cross the road in front of them, and now what was that? And the car swerves. Well, I was a pretty good stunt driver when I was young. I learned how, you know. I could power slide a car around and hit reverse going 50 miles an hour and go 50, 60 yards and then spin it back around and kick it and drive and never lose but a couple of miles an hour. And Uncle Smokey, he knew this. He'd seen me do it a couple times.
So guess who got picked to be the stunt car driver too?
Well, yeah, and then I was supposed to do the stunt, and they was gonna record it. And all he wanted was a car to sway back and forth. And I said, well, ain't nothing to that. I said, all you gotta do is, I said, this is cinematography. Camera come from Hollywood, California. That's another item I drove to Little Rock to pick up. And then I made 3 trips to Little Rock. They couldn't send it all at the same time. And I said, just slow you down and just let the car go from side to side like that a couple times, and then you speed it up when you put the movie together. He said, how do you know about putting? I said, well, that's Splash movies. They go from one scene to another. So smooth. I said, and that's what this is. I'm done on to you. We done shot a bunch of scenes and everything, me in the woods. And you said that's enough of them in the woods. That means you gonna clip, splice and splice all this together. So all you gotta do is when you do that, just let me drive there slow, and then you speed it up when you splice it together. And he called somebody, Charles B. Pierce did, and he come out the next morning and he said, okay, you know, I want you in this old car here. He borrowed an old Ford LTD Galaxy, and he said, you just do that. And we waited till dark, and we shot it, and it come out perfect.
Nice.
One take on it. Just about everything in that movie was one take. Charles B. Pierce knew what he was doing.
Apparently. I used to have a Ford Galaxy when I was a kid. Those are powerful cars. You can get yourself all kinds of hurt playing with one of those things.
Oh yeah, it's something else. The scene where Uncle Buddy changes. Uncle Buddy was portraying Jeff Crabtree's sighting on the river, and going up that bank. I've had people ask me how I managed to get up that steep bank so fast. Well, I was fresh out the Marine Corps. I was in good physical shape, and there wasn't nothing to it. I mean, it just like I was naturally, had always used all 4 limbs going up a steep side, because at one point it's 4 foot straight up it. And by the time I had enough momentum, we went up there. It was nonstop. It was one fluid motion going up there. And when I come back down there, Charles B. Pierce looked at me and he told me, he said, that was awesome. He said, I never dreamed you could scale that riverbank that way.
With the costume on.
With the costume on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just said, just like I was unnormally strength, you know. It's just physical strength, and then there was no adrenaline flow, you know. And when you fresh out the Marine Corps, you still in good shape. I don't care who said. If they ain't, they stayed in. They stayed in, and they was either a career or a lifer and got kicked out because they was out of shape and got fat. Because when you do 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, when you get out, you still lean, mean machine.
Yeah.
And you know they say once a Marine, always a Marine, and everything. And my little hat pin, I tell you, I still live and breathe that. I was proud of my deal. And the movie was easy on the physical part. And the Burl Ives part, I got to meet Burl Ives.
Oh, that's awesome.
The script writer, I can't remember his name right at the moment. He was a very, very nice person. And we talked a lot. There was a lot went on behind the scenes that can't be talked about because, well, I guess it could because the divorces has done happened. We and I'm like, I'm not involved in all this. I said, best, Earl Smith, I believe was the writer's name. And I said, y'all ain't doing right. I said, I'm going to the house. I said, this ain't work. This is partying and drinking. And I got plans. I got friends like me wondering where I'm at.
Yeah.
And another scene that I kind of cherish about it was down on 134 past where the river scene was shot on the mainline ditch. The river scene where Uncle Buddy changes the shells in the double barrel shotgun was not Sulphur River. It was the mainline ditch off the bridge on Highway 134. And right on down, less than a quarter mile, was the house where Charles' son, we call him Chucky all his life, and I knew him as Chucky, where he was running through the field and everything, and they're looking out the windows of the old house down there. And I'm believing that was one of the old Burns houses down, and I don't think that structure's there anymore. And the majority of the structures is there. The only one that is really still standing is the Cersei house, and it's still intact. It's wayward, leaning a little bit and everything, but the original house structure is still solid.
Wow.
And the fireplace is still intact. The add-on, the kitchen was an add-on on the back. The screen and porch was an add-on to the front. And there was another room added on after the movie was made, I believe, best of my memory tells me. And that's where the cat was found dead. No marks, no nothing. Something scared it to death. And I remember walking up to the window, and Mary Beth played Lena in that movie. She's, and I'm pretty sure you heard Christy Sci-Fi in there beside us a while ago saying, Mary Beth, put something over the window. This baby's gonna take a chill and catch a cold. I don't remember the exact line, but I guarantee you Christy does. She's got it down pat. There's just so much. I could go on for a long time, and I don't know.
Well, one thing I'd like to point out to the viewers who, the 2 or 3 people on Earth that haven't seen that movie, is that this was not some Hollywood farcical scripted thing. This is events that actually happened.
Correct.
That they were trying to do basically a Hollywood-style documentary about it on a very limited budget. And I didn't find out until years after I saw it the first time, because as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is cool. It's so atmospheric. They did such a great job of capturing the mood of what was going on. How did they do this? Well, the thing that really surprised the hell out of me is a lot of the actors weren't actors. They were Smokey Crabtree. Picture of Smokey with Harriet. There's Smokey. Of course, this relates to the beast of Boggy Creek.
Oh, she's in front of my face. Why didn't I see that? Okay.
Yeah, you just don't want to get that.
Right.
There's Smokey.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Harriet at Boggy Creek. She's been everywhere. Involved
Right.
in the original situations that played parts of the characters in the movie, which makes it even more amazing when you watch it. You're like, how the hell has this whole town got nothing but really good actors in it?
Well, there's a lot of talent come out of Falk, Arkansas.
I guess.
Uncle Smokey himself was a character. He played the guitar, sang. He was a Golden Gloves boxer in California. He was the little welder that got up in the bow of the ships in the tight spots and done all the
Well,
welding.
the bigger guys couldn't get in.
The bigger guys couldn't get in.
Yeah.
He learned how to, he was an awesome welder. He taught me how to run stick rod stainless. Uncle Smokey, anything he done, he was good at. And the last house that he built a heating system in it under the fireplace before the fireplace was ever built. And I got to watch him do it. He was there's a lot of different talents, you know, so, craftsman's, well, author of 3 books or more, Uncle Smokey was, and I'm gonna tell everybody what the J.E. Smokey Crabtree stood for right here, right now. His sisters named him. He went through life as J.E. Smokey Crabtree. In California, when he was Golden Gloves champion in his weight class, they called him Smoking Joe.
Okay.
Yeah, he boxed. He was good at it. He he was like one of our cousins, Henry Crabtree. He knew when it was better to make a good run than a bad stand and take a beating out there.
Yeah.
And our cousin Henry was famous for that right there. And it's kind of comical to think about all the things that jump in your mind when you go back thinking about, 50 years ago.
That was quite a while. I got a question for you. Was he the first Smoking Joe, or was that afterwards?
I have no idea about that. I just remember one of his friends one time, old Smoking Joe.
Yeah.
I found out later that he had been out in California with him. And it might have been his brother-in-law, McLeod. Last name of McLeod came out here to live a little while. I got to talk to him a little bit. And you talk about different scenarios. His kids had never drove a vehicle.
Wow.
And they had never seen a real cow other than on television. When they got out here, they were in a new world.
Yeah.
And I'm talking, it's probably 18, 20 years after the movie was made that I got to meet them. Wow. And everything. And I remember Uncle Smokey when he came in from the Alaskan, when he was up there welding, and he came in. See, and he had a welding rig that if you ever seen it once, you knew it the next time you seen it. If you ever got his book, Smokey and the Fight Monster, there's a picture of that welding rig, and you can't mistake it. It was painted in red and blue stripes on the beds and stuff. They knew it was him coming if he was coming, is all I'm going to say on that. It might be where I get my theory about my merchandise and my caps and t-shirts and stuff. Loud and proud.
Damn straight. His caps are so cool. I bought one while I was here, and that's the only swag I got while I was here.
Loud and proud.
That's right.
They'll know who it is and where it come from when they see loud and proud. And that was my Uncle Smokey. He was a small man in stature, in physical stature, but in real life he was much a man. He was an outdoorsman. He was my fishing partner there for a couple of years too. I took and showed him my fishing holes. I paddled the boat and let him fish. It's something he didn't get to do much of. Normally he's the one doing the paddling, taking somebody fishing. And I put him on my fish, and I made him around in one of the holes, and then we loaded the boat up, went to the next one. It was in some gravel pits, and they're crystal clear. And I said, all right, let's go. He said, we're going to go to the next water hole, Uncle Smokey. He said, why? We're doing good here. I said, I don't put you on every bass that's in here. And you don't want the mudcats out this hole, do you? He said, no, I guess not. He said, how do you know we got every bass that was in here? I said, because I'm taller than you and the water's clear and I can see them faster than you can. Why you think I'm slowing down and quit paddling and let you catch them? And now after you catch them, if I don't see them, when I paddle you to the next one, he looked at me like I was crazy, Then we load the boat up and we go to the next one, and it's just as clear as the first one. He said, can you really see them fish? I said, if you'll just carefully stand up in this boat, you'll be able to see them. I said, y'all, you getting some morning glare off the water right now. If you stand up and look down, and I said, I handed him them brown shaded glasses that cuts the glare off the water. And he's like, man, that's like Superman X-ray vision. So,
that's a really clear water too. In a lot of parts of the country, you got so much runoff and sediment and stuff in it, it looks like chocolate milk.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can't see anything in it.
Yeah.
And especially nowadays, it's really hard to find a river that's that clear.
Well, these gravel pits are probably from 1910, 1920, and they've settled.
A lot.
There's not a stream flowing through them, and unless somebody's doing an insurance job on a car, they don't get muddied up. They got one that's pretty deep. They finally pumped it dry, and I think it was 9 cars down in that spot. And that's where I took Uncle Smokey fishing. Didn't nobody fishing. I got him down to Twin Lakes. And Uncle Smokey's one taught me how to fillet a fish. I didn't know how until he taught me. I was like 30-something years old, 35. And he taught me how to fillet a fish. And to this day, I still can.
Yeah. Well, he taught you the right way to do it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
One question I've always wondered, how much, on the set when you guys were filming and stuff, how much background talk was there about the real Boggy Creek monster? Is he gonna show up while we're filming here? Do we need to worry about any of that kind of stuff?
When we was on the set, about the only discussion was going on was between the Earl, the scriptwriter, and Uncle Smokey and Charles B. Pierce. And Charles B. Pierce pretty well had everything lined out as the way it needed to go.
Mm-hmm.
And if Uncle Smokey disagreed a little bit, he'd tell him, well, it'd look a little bit more like the real deal if we changed this just a little bit. And Charles B. Pierce was very cooperative because he knew Uncle Smokey knew what he was talking about.
So he really wanted to make this as accurate to reality as he could make it.
Uncle Smokey wanted an honest, no falsehoods, pure out honest documentary made of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because people has laughed at us down there in that community for many years. Crazy, lunatics, you name it, the description that can be put upon someone that was believing back then, and we heard it.
Yeah.
And this was one way of Uncle Smokey making this documentary with Charles B. Pierce and James Lynn. The actual shooting with the squirrel shot that Travis portrayed his brother, James Lynn. And they had to take him to the hospital after that incident. He was in such a shade of shock. He was a woodsman. He hunted, we was all avid woodsmen because, that's meat on the table to country people in that times.
Yeah.
Whether it be squirrel, rabbit, duck, deer, whatever. And that particular time, Lynn was squirrel hunting, James Lynn. And when he had his encounter, and he dumped 2 loads of squirrel shot in it, and it didn't phase it, and he got scared, and there was 3 or 4 fences between him and the house. He didn't remember going across. He does not remember climbing a fence. And I remember, for no taller than what James Lynn was, he was pretty good at running hurdles. And the fences wasn't nothing when that adrenaline was up there, I'll guarantee you. And he was a very honest young man at the time. I think he was 16.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't one to tell a lie. And I knew, when I got to talk to him, I knew he was telling the truth. Because when I talked to him, it was about 3 weeks later after the incident, and he still turned pale just thinking about it. So I have no idea what he's seen or how ugly a creature it was, but I was believing at that time. And now I've heard stories all the way back from my grandma, and when they introduced deer into our part of the country in southwest Arkansas, they weren't a natural habitat there. They brought the deer into our country. And my granny Crabtree tell me about one time they heard noises all night, and they figured it was one of the deer that they had brought in and got tangled up in their fence down by the road. But she didn't live 100 yards from Boggy Creek.
Oh God.
Right there. So, and they just, they didn't get up and look. They didn't go out there. They just figured one of the noise they'd never heard before might be a deer caught up in the fence. Because there's other people say, well, they're hanging up my fences and stuff once in a while. So next morning they got up and they go down there and they ain't twisted barbed wire nowhere. And she said, we even looked for hair on the barbs and stuff, and there wasn't none. She said, we have no idea. And then she said, and then we found some, looked like human footprints, but they was awful big.
God.
You know, and my granny Crabtree wasn't talking to many people, but she kept me from the time I was 6 months till I was almost 3 years old. Because mother had what they call stairs test back then. They had Turl and 49, John Paul and 50, and me and 51. So she was lightening mother's load on the diapers and stuff like that. And I lived with her, so I was special to Granny Crabtree because she started me out in life. She nursed me through infants from 6 months to almost 3 years. I lived with her, and there was always a bond. I stayed down there with her and on the creek and go out, walk through the woods to Uncle Smokey's. Wasn't none to it. He'd walk at night, no light or no nothing.
Yeah.
And if it got too dark and I couldn't see, I could actually kind of feel the brush on the side and know where the split was and know I had to go a little bit to the right to get back to the county road to go to Grandma's house. And it was all gravel back then. There wasn't no pavement. And you could hear the 18-wheelers, the big semi-trucks on Highway 71. Even if it was raining, you could hear them trucks and get your sense of direction. If you couldn't see, you know,
Yeah.
well, you're going the right direction. You're going towards the highway. So, you know, and my two older brothers, we used to go up and down that creek and hunt snakes, cottonmouths, you know. We built us some China berry spears, and we would just like, and the middle brother, John Paul, he was regular Buffalo Bill, dead shot, dead on, bullseye. I seen him get 2 snakes in one throw before. I've seen him get 2 squirrels in one shot. Just wait till they line up and then bust a cap on him.
Yeah.
He was just good that way. There's so many memories that can be jolted out, and I'm one of them people. When I point A to point B is from here to there, I got to take a few side streets because there's stories that jump in there, jump in my mind, and if I don't spit them out at that time, I might not get them spit out.
Well, there's that.
You know. So if you got some questions and more specific about anything about the making of the movie, we can do them. I'd be proud to answer them.
Well, you know, the whole, like I said, when I saw the movie, I was a kid, and the whole thing impressed me so much because it was so atmospheric and true to life. And it really comes through. But again, the thing that surprised me afterwards, I found out that so many of the people in there that were actors weren't really actors. And then I kind of went, how the hell did they get all these spectacular performances out of these people? And it occurred to me it's because this really happened to them. So it's pretty easy for them to act that part. Because in some cases they're like, yeah, I remember when this happened. You know.
Here's something that I didn't mention. The Lena scene with the baby, Mary Beth put something over the window scene.
Yeah.
That window's on the back side of that house. And on the back side of that house, it's pretty high. It's 3, 4, maybe 4 or 5 cinder blocks high to the foundation that sits on the cinder block. So that winder's got to be 7, 8 foot tall.
At least.
I had to tiptoe for them to, when I looked in the window on that scene. And I thought to myself right now, and I said, and that thing just stood here. And I kind of got cold chills when I did that scene because I had to stop and think. And I don't know what it was that scared that poor cat to death. But it was just like it froze. I seen the cat that died that they're talking about. And we was down there a lot. You know, it had nothing to do but visiting kinfolk back in them days.
Yeah.
So, but that's one thing I thought about. And I got kind of goosebumped up over thinking about that. Whatever it was is huge and big.
This stuff happens in real life too. It's not just, you know, Boggy Creek. I had a guest that was on my show a few years ago, and they had the whole little town they were in went into general uprising mode because one of these guys got too aggressive. and there was a boy and a girl sitting on a couch watching the TV. And they don't know if he was trying to grab one of them, which seems possible. But he put his hand right through the window, and in the commotion of the kid freaking out, jumping off the couch, apparently the couch got tipped over, stuff went flying all over the place. And she was out of reach from him.
Yeah.
And then immediately Mom was coming into the room as it happened and saw it and screamed. And then of course he went, uh-oh, adult, and took off.
Right.
But
yeah.
this kind of stuff does happen occasionally, and the outcome here was the whole town basically went into defense mode. Everybody got their hunting rifles,
Yeah.
and they had somebody on each property watching all night long to make sure nothing was coming around. And you know, it's one thing to have them walking around your property tapping on a window or something, but when they're trying to grab somebody through a window, they've gone way too far. And it's my understanding the Sasquatch take it that way too.
Yeah.
If they got one of their own doing that kind of stuff, they're going to dispose of them. Because he's a problem. And he's going to draw all the humans' attention to them, which they don't want. That's the last thing they want.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice in a way if you think about it. If you got one of these rogue Sasquatch running around causing trouble, if we don't get them first, their own kind are going to get them soon.
Right.
So there are controls on that.
Uh-huh.
You just got to be hopeful that you're not one of the unlucky ones that runs into them before somebody takes care of
I
them.
hear that. I go back in getting them memory boxes in, I believe it would have been 1960. We was having a shindig down at Harold and Amy's, and little Perry Jones, I believe it was going on. He come back and he had seen one cross in front of him, and next thing I know, they're passing out guns, and the adult men are getting in the vehicles and driving the roads with lights, flashlights, and everything. And I want to say that was 1960, and that's 3-4 years, 5 years before James Lynn incident and everything. And with Granny telling me about the deer, I want to think Uncle Smokey would have been a young adult, maybe, I don't know. They were adults while they were still teenagers back in those days.
Yeah.
I don't even think Uncle Smokey was 17 when he was in California in the shipyards and stuff yet. And Uncle Buddy was in the Navy, and I think Dad was a merchant marine, underage. I think he went in at 16. And you know, back then they had the man up at a young age. And the next incident that I remember would have been James Lynn's incident. And then the next incident after that, and a lot of people may not remember this, they had what they called a fertilizer plant on Oaks Street in Texarkana. There was a reported sighting over there. This is inside the Texarkana city limits.
That's getting pretty spooky at that point. You got them right in town.
Right, right. And there's a little creek that runs through there, and it's, as long as I can remember, it's had bamboo thickets. And there's a salvage yard, and then now it used to go through, but when they put the loop, interstate loop through there, they cut that creek, and I don't know where it flows to now, but there was a waterway in there at that time, and I'm pretty certain it flowed back around and come back into where Days Creek starts. Days Creek starts in Texarkana. That's where Days Creek starts. It starts in there on the east side of East Street, about the where the old lumber mill used to sit, down in there under the old viaduct before they replaced it. And that's where Days Creek's. The bridge over Days Creek is right there before you get to the railroad underpass on East Street in College Hill area. And I remember there's 2 sightings up in Texarkana that don't ever get talked about, but I remember them. And I'm definitely sure about the one on Oak Street, and it was discussed by Uncle Smokey, and I remember Charles B. Pierce talking about, and is there any others? And Uncle Smokey, you know, Charles B. Pierce lived on Short 10th Street right there in the area. So he should have been pretty knowledgeable about the area and stuff. And I didn't get to converse with him a whole lot. I was always the one having to do this and do that. You know, every job's got the main person, the underpaid helper, the underpaid laborer that actually does everything. He's not skilled yet. He gets the whole workload. So when the conversations were going on, I wasn't up close and personal in a bunch of them, but a few of them I did hear. And I'm thinking to myself, man, this is gonna be something someday. I said, I'm saying this here's gonna be an awesome movie. And sure enough, 50 years later, look, and they've redigitized it and remastered it and enhanced the audio. Just think, and I had a friend walk up to me. He said, "Dang, just think, you got to be famous off the same movie twice." I started laughing at him. I said, "Yeah, buy me a beer now." I said, that and a bag
2 beers.
that and a bag of pretzels, and me and you'll enjoy a cold beverage. That's because I didn't make no money off that movie.
Now, Mr. Pierce, was he the scriptwriter?
No, Earl Smith.
Earl was the scriptwriter.
I'm pretty sure that was his last name.
How much into the whole Bigfooting thing was he? Because some of the things that he said that are in the dialogue, especially in the narration, oh, they always follow the rivers and stuff like that. Well, how in the hell did you know that? Because they do actually follow the rivers.
The Crank House, where Bobby Ford incident, where they reached through the window on Bobby Ford, is on the north side of Texarkana. I remember Chicken Creek being south of the Crank House. Now the people saying it's up there by the Hensley house, where Jerry Hensley lives now, that's Chicken Creek. But best of my memory, Chicken Creek was the second bridge north of Fout, and the one up by the Hensley property is the third bridge. Well, because I remember, because that's where Becky Robertson had her crash, and the car turned upside down and we lost her. I've never forgot that. That creek used to have a big hole there. Matter of fact, the railroad used to run through there, and back in the day, it was a water stop. You know, they had to have water stops, them steam locomotives and stuff back in the day. And I remember that there was 2 sightings on Chicken Creek, which is North Falk. And the Ford incident at the Crank House, that's 3. You don't hear nobody talk about them sightings on over on Chicken Creek.
I wonder why.
No.
Wonder why that got left out
don't
of the whole
know.
thing.
I don't know. I've always wondered about that myself.
I know, that's pretty peculiar, especially when you're trying to wrap the whole thing up in a story and you've got these other accounts right here and you're like, no,
Well, just a glimpse of it, and these other sightings were good sightings, like the Charlie Walraven. He never faltered in his statement. His story was very credible, very, very credible happening of his encounter, and his story never changed. When your story changes, you're not telling the truth.
Right.
And that's the reason, and I may be mistaken, but I think Mr. Charlie seen it twice. And they only did the one because that was it, you know. And I understand the budget and everything at the time and all that. But you talk about the actors. Let me tell you something about the people of Fout. They're all over the United States. You got good people. You got people that struggled hard, and back then, they knew what it took to get by and how to do things. And they knew how to portray themselves as honest people. And Uncle Smokey and Charles B. Pierce had a falling out over the Crank incident with Bobby Ford.
Really?
Yes. that's when Uncle Smokey cut Charles B. Pierce loose.
Well, what happened there?
He just didn't want it in there. He didn't believe it. It was out of character to what's been going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you take the Lloyd Walraven, he was hired Walraven. And then you take John Oates, the two hogs being gone, and that stuff. You're talking about two big hogs, and ain't no tracks leaving and ain't no tracks coming up. And they didn't bust the wire to get out. Something reached over and took both of them at the same time, and they was big shoals. They wasn't piglets.
Yeah.
They was big hogs. And everything, and just everything added up. And getting, I believe it was, who was it supposed to got thrown off the horse? Kip Jones? I believe it was Kip Jones that seen it and the horse throwed him. And I believe Roy Gene Cornett played that part on the horse. He just about make the horse talk to you. He was a cowboy. He rode horses, you know. He wore a cowboy hat all the time. He's gone. I love Roy Gene Cornett to death. He was a people person. He was a long, tall drink of water, and he was a character like Uncle Smokey was. And I remember when I was 15 years old, I met him, and I said, "This is a cool dude, right here." I said, "This feller he's just good person to be around." And he, Mr. Whirl, the Whirls moved down here out of Ohio, I believe it was, and they made friends with Roy Gene, and they was close. And we could go over Friday and Saturday night, and there's always some shine to sip on, and Mr. Cornett wouldn't let you leave if you had a nip. You had to stay.
Mm-hmm.
He'd take your keys. If you was on a motorcycle, he'd take your motorcycle keys. If you was in a car, he'd take him keys. And if they wasn't an adult to drive you home after you had a couple of nips. And that's what people took care of one another back then in our neighborhood. And as far as being in the woods and stuff, I used to camp out by myself on Chicken Creek.
Oh, God.
I know where Chicken Creek was. And it run out the backside of the constable's property towards 71 from east to west. And I used to go down there and camp out. I'd take a string and a hook, salt, pepper, and aluminum foil, and a potato. I'd wrap the potato in tin foil, and if I got hungry, my little fire would cook the potato. If I got lucky and caught enough little brim, I'd take and clean them and wrap them in a tin foil with salt and pepper and put them there and cook them. And never feared nothing in the woods, you know. And I had heard all that, but when you're young, you're not as intelligent over being in danger as what you are when you get older.
When you're young, you think you're indestructible and you're going to live forever. That's how they can get them to volunteer to go fight pointless wars in other countries.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, how old were you when you got back and you landed the job to be the Boggy Creek Monster?
I was 20 years old when all the scenes were shot. I turned 21 that year in 72 in the month of July.
That must have been really different going from the Marine Corps to, well, now you're going to be a monster in a monster movie. What?
They didn't nothing faze me. I was running wild.
Just another gig.
I had the fastest car in the 4 states area. I outrun the 440 Magnum. I outrun the Marvin Senior State Trooper. He come to my house on Sunday. I'm trying to escape out the window. My mama catches me by the seat of my breeches and my belt loop on my backside and says, "You go and get in here and talk to this man." I got in there and a person had to love Marvin Senior, Arkansas State Trooper. He said, "Let's go out here and sit on the steps, son." I said, "Yes, sir." First question he asked me, he said, "What kind of motor you got in that car?" I said, "I got a small block 400 with high output heads on it from a factory." He said, "Really, you ain't never been working on?" "No, sir." "And it's just a 400? I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You know what the second question was?" "Can I drive it?" And this is a true story. He left his state trooper patrol unit parked in our driveway. Me and him go down on 134 where a quarter mile is marked off for a street drag. And he stops and he guns it. And we get back and he said, it's the fastest thing I've ever been in. I said, ain't it though? I said, I beat Fred Searcy's 454 cal injected down O'Toole Chevelle last weekend. He loves speed. He loved fast cars. He was all about it. They had that 440 Police Intercepted in the old Polaris that he would drive on Dodge Polaris. And if I don't know if you're old enough to remember them, 72 models. When we got back on the steps, he looked at me, he said, son, I'm scared I'm gonna have to scoop you up off the highway or something one day. He said, will you please slow down? I said, I'll try, sir. I love going fast. He said, I know you do. He said, when you come through them silver inner curves, sir, last night, I clocked you at 168 miles an hour. I said, now slow down to make the curve, boss. He said, I thought you did. I thought I seen them headlights dip down at the pavement once. I said, all I done was let off the accelerator. I said, I wasn't flat out yet. He said, my God. He said, I'm gonna drive the car again. I said, we'll have to go put some gas in it. When you got your toes in that 4-barrel, it likes that gasoline. So we went and gassed it up and he drove it again. And the next time I seen him, he said, you cutting up last night? I said, no, sir. Wasn't me. I said, that's that girl in that
just didn't look like anything I'd ever seen. I thought at first it might be some kind of a wild man. I couldn't tell all that hair just what it was. I changed my shells in my shotgun from squirrel shot to my buckshot. More for my protection than anything else. If I'd have had my rifle, I believe I could have knocked him down easy. You got him, that pretty fellow!
Newspaper and television coverage resulted in nationwide publicity. Our immediate reaction was to try to kill him. I suppose if a strange-looking creature from another world showed up, he'd get the same reception.
Sky, no man's smoke blinds the eagle's eye, and things that crawl or swim or fly, feed and breed and live and die.
I seen him. He's coming around the porch.
It was right over there. Right over there.
See, there isn't anything over there.
Well, there was.
He was.
Over there. He was. That's where we saw him last.
He suddenly disappeared. So far as we know, he wasn't seen again for 8 years. Where did he go? Well, we believe he simply headed back deeper and deeper into the bottoms, beyond the reach of men. Only the alligator and wolf, crane and possum, and 1,000 other wild creatures heard his occasional lonely cries ringing out over his watery domain.
This is where the story plays, a world on which we seldom gaze, a page from the book of yesterdays, birds and beasts and wind and water.
Louisiana, sheriff's daughter, she comes over here in hot rods because she don't want her daddy knowing she's driving fast.
Yeah.
He said, oh, okay. I said, it's not black like mine. It's not pinstripe like mine. It's a dark, dark blue, and at night it looks black. He said, okay. And he did, about 2 weeks later, he got her and gave her a ticket. And then I seen him, and I pulled up beside him. He said, I got her. I cooled her heels, and I called her daddy. He was sheriff.
Ooh, daddy,
he was parish sheriff over in Louisiana over there. So he did, and I said, see, you always thinking it was me all the time. I said, she ain't got but a 350. And I said, it's fast for a 350. I said, I don't doubt what it wouldn't take your 440 police interceptor. And that's something about them Oldsmobiles right there in that 69 year model. The 68s didn't have the horsepower. And Mr. Senior, he looked at me one time, he said, Marine, he said, I can't say thug, I can't say toughian. He said, movie star. And I said, you talking about that movie? He said, yeah. He said, you famous. I said, no, I'm not, I'm just me. I said, around here, you the one famous. I said, you can outrun most of the high-powered muscle cars in this area. He said, yeah, there's two I can't catch, and both of them's Oldsmobiles. I think Gary Thomas was Miller County deputy when the Harvins hoaxed them. They stopped on the side of the road to use the bathroom down there at 234 and 71, just south of Boggy Creek. And they got the big idea of telling everybody they got attacked by Bigfoot down there. The fat monster got them and clawed them up, and they took their shirts off and clawed one another's backs. And they got up there, they took them up there to question them about this, because that's pretty serious when there's a critter going to attack the citizens, and they took it serious. And one of them deputies happened to notice under one of them's fingernails, and it looked like there was something hanging out. And he reached in there and he pulled it out, and he looked at it, and he was pretty certain it was human skin. And sure enough, it was.
Mm-hmm.
They find them pretty good putting that hoax on. And that's the only hoax down there. That didn't make the movie either. That didn't make, that's like Star kissing Charlie. Sorry, Charlie, it ain't happening. You know?
Sorry, Charlie, you smell fishy.
Yeah.
So, you know, one of the things that always pops to mind in situations like this is how there's people that have random encounters. You know, maybe they live in the city, they're out driving in the country, something runs across the road at night from them. The ones that I really feel sorry for are the people that are the hardcore woodsmen. They live in the woods. They're out there all the time. They're camping, hunting, fishing. Yeah. And all of a sudden it turns their world completely upside down, and they don't even want to go in the woods again.
Right.
And that's, it's so heartbreaking that happens to people.
You have a lot of people, a lot of the researchers, they want to go out at night because they believe they're nocturnal. Me, I'm pretty certain they're nocturnal. They can't be seen in daylight. And at this point in my age and my geriatric, geritol-taking old self, you're not going to catch me out in them woods at night if I can't see anything. But in the daytime, I'm not scared to go in the woods by myself.
Yeah.
But I won't be camping out on a creek by myself.
No.
And I've camped out there at Smith Park when Tanya, before she passed, she was my research partner. And they knew my travel trailer, and they knew Tanya was there, and dragged their hand down the whole side of a 28-foot travel trailer. And then it happened 3 times, and all 3 times after you do it, and they rattled the padlock on the ramp on the toy hauler. I hear they rattle that lock, and then you hear sound like 3 little specks of pea gravel hit the skin on a travel trailer. Pick, pick, pick. There's 3 times something drug all the way down the side of the trailer. One time it rattled the lock, and it unsettled me so bad when I was down there by myself. And I forgot about that back porch light where the drop door is for the toy hauler. The button was right there where I stuck my head out the door, and I seen a dark silhouette.
Oh, God.
But it was so dark I couldn't see nothing. And I could hit that light switch and lit up the whole backyard on the travel trailer. You just, it takes your thought away from you. And I was like, what am I doing sticking my head out this door? And me and Tanya always left them organic apples, the whole bag.
Yeah.
We'd go down the little walk path and get off of it and put them in. We go back the next day and the whole bag of apples be gone. And no deer tracks, no nothing. You know?
Pretty sure who's taking those. Well, I hate to cut it short, brother, but the battery is dead.
All right.
So assuming we're still getting any video here that's actually recording, I'd like to thank you very much for putting some video on the camera here, letting people know what it was like to be the world famous Boggy Creek monster all those years ago. And encourage everybody to, when you're around the Bigfoot conferences and stuff where Mr. Crabtree is at, come around, say hi to him, buy some of his awesome swag, which was the best stuff we had here at this conference. He had the top of the line stuff. Everybody's mobbing him all the time. Not just because he's a famous actor, but because he's got the best swag here too.
There you go.
And Mr. Crabtree Keith here is a hell of a nice guy. Everybody come down and mob him whenever you see he's at a Bigfoot conference. Show up there just to talk to him. Because he'll tell you about the stuff that actually happened back in those days. And he knows all those people that were involved. This is the area he grew up in.
Know all the sites where everything was filmed at.
Right on.
Some of them changed. You can't get into the bean field no more. It's turned into a Boggy Creek Ranch deal. It's gated now, and I don't know who owns it. I really don't live in Falk other than just right inside the 3 blocks down from Main Street. I don't get around, get out that much and socialize with them. And one thing I want to say right now, I'm ready to go find the 20-footers in Montana.
Come on up.
Yeah.
Take you up to the Gemstone Mountains where the mountain giants are. We got a 26-inch track from there. You sure you want to find that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We don't really want to.
You know, if you can get me geriatric in there, I'm ready. You know, I don't never know when my knees is gonna lock up or my back's gonna go out anymore. But I'll still go.
Well, if you want to know how easy it is, just ask William Lunsford, and he'll tell you. And he'll go, no, don't go.
I'm going to tell you about Mr. Lunsford. I love him to death. I respect that man. He's been doing this 30, 40 years, and he's very credible.
Yep. He's been doing it the same amount of time as me, 45.
My incident on Middle County 10 where the orb come down in and back out, a month later, I talked to him and showed him the orb on my video, and he said, dang it. And he swears he's at, and I told him, he said, we've been researching that area. We've been getting reports for 3 years in there. And then I knew what that silhouette next to the sweet gum tree was.
Uh-huh.
And it's there. And Lupe Mendoza, the first time I showed it to him, it didn't even get halfway started into the orb coming in. He said, there he is, there he is. And he wasn't pointing at the orb.
He was pointing at that Bigfoot.
He was pointing at the juvenile, say about 7-footer, against the sweet gum tree. And then the next morning, after I dissected that little short video I had, it ain't but 4 or 5 seconds. And I sent it to M.K. Davis, and he got back the most authentic video he'd ever viewed, he said. He told me it's real. And I'm dissecting it, and I come to it, and I looked at that sweet gum tree, and you can see the bend in the knee, you can see the elbow, the arm, the hand, the shoulder, the top of the head, and you can even see he's propped up against that tree watching them fireworks just like I was sitting on the bed of my pickup truck. He's on one side of the road and I'm on the other.
And you're on the other.
We got a 5-second video, and I posted it out on Facebook. I put it public. I wasn't trying to keep nothing from nobody. I wanted everybody to know that I did something.
But thanks for spending some time talking with us. Hope you all enjoyed the interview with the superstar that wore the costume, Keith Crabtree.
He's overrating me, people. I'm just common Joe is all I am.
No, he's a great guy. He's totally awesome. He's underrepresenting himself.
All right.
Thanks for being with us, everybody.
So make sure that you're kind to everyone. Safety first, last, and always. Pay it forward. Don't be mean to people if you don't have to be. Don't flip off the mountain giant. Don't poke Dogman with a stick. Don't punt the Puckwudgie. And for God's sake, whatever you do not hug the Wookiee.